Yeah, it's good.
You're from Okunini Obadele Kambon. You woman wa Bruchiri now, so you may feel be my ha. So my name is Dr. Obadele Kambon. I was born overseas in the U.S., but I'm from Africa.
Nice. Dang, my head just started feeling weird. What do you mean by you're from Africa?
Okay. I'm from Africa. That's what I mean. So you can have, and this is why you have different expressions, right? So you can say I was born in such a place. I'm from such a place. So a place that a person is born is different from where a person is from. That the two are not necessarily the same. I'll give you a couple analogies. Malcolm X used to say, just because a cat has kittens in an oven, that doesn't make them biscuits, right? So regardless of where you happen to be located, that doesn't change your essential essence. You have a similar proverb in Wolof, which is the main language of Senegal, one of the main languages of Senegal. It said, "Lubanti yagitindo do takmusopa de kumuk jasi." It translates to, no matter how long a log remains in the water, it never becomes a crocodile. You'll find different versions of that proverb in other places as well. But again, it all comes down to the idea that the essence of a person doesn't change just based on location. And this is something that was known by our ancestors, as recently, it's still up to now, but even more popularly in the 1800s. You have people calling everything African. African Methodist Episcopal, African this, African that. They were very clear, like, we're Africans. In order to subvert that type of consciousness is where you have the rise of people calling themselves African American, Black American, and you're not any kind of American. It's like saying I'm a cat biscuit. You're a cat or you're a biscuit. Make a decision. This is the hyphenated thing that really keeps people confused. And the main thing to understand is that confusion is intentional. Understand what happens when you think you should be loyal to your enemy. It's basically what you have, like Stockholm syndrome. Now, if you're familiar with that, that's basically where you have a situation, someone is kidnapped, and then they start to identify with their kidnapper, fall in love with their kidnapper. This is exactly what you have when you have people calling themselves African American, Black American, or any kind of American. It's like, I think that I am part of my kidnappers. You understand? So this is exactly what I'm referring to.
Nice. Yeah, that's tight. So when did you come to Ghana and why?
First or?
Yeah. Well, you can talk about your first experience or I guess your first experience in Africa, and then you can talk about your the reason why you decided to repatriate. It's on you. It's still recording.
Okay. All right. I was like, all right, do it, because I saw you do something here.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Nah, it's all good.
Okay. I first came to Ghana. My mother brought me as part of the Sankofa journey. You can check out sankofajourney.com. We still do it yearly. So this is back in 1998. So I was somewhere around 18, 19 years old. And, like I said, my mother brought me. She was studying Akom, which is a traditional Akan spiritual system. And she was being initiated as an Okomfo up at Meduma with Nana Abbas, a very famous Okomfo who's there. So, she brought me and several other, mainly young people, college students at the time. I was just coming out of high school, going into college. So she brought me with the rest of that group. And, at the time, it was just like, this is mom's thing. My parents are always on this Africa thing. Let me just go. It wasn't, this big draw personally for me to come. But between that first time and that second time that I came, so I came again in 99, and I had a very serious change, in my life where I really was forced to come to grips with, identity, some of these other issues. So long story short, by the second time I came, I started learning the language because my mother wasn't on Comfort, so I became what's called Ochiame, which is, they translate it as linguist, but really it's a spokesperson. So you don't go directly to the Okonfo, you operate through the person who's playing that role of the Ochiame. So I was like, well, if I'm supposed to play that role, I better learn the language. So 99 I came, and then 2000 I came again. And 2000 was actually my mother. Her name is Dr. Mawia Kambon. She was the president of the Association of Black Psychologists that year. And they brought about 500 psychologists here to Ghana that year. And so I stayed for about 2 weeks for that. And I stayed on after that in order to do a year of study abroad. So the first year, or rather the first semester as I came, they realized, okay, I'm already conversational, I already have, a good degree of ability in the language. So as opposed to taking the generic courses that everybody else took, they had me do a one-on-one tutorial with one of the senior professors who's here, who's, generally on campus people say he's probably the best person in the language. That's Professor Kofi Ajikun. So what we did, we were just reading these Anansi stories. So he was like, all right, you already understand everything, you know what's going on, but now we're working on pronunciation and, these other comparatively, I guess, minor issues. And by the second semester, I started enrolling in courses for native speakers. So, these are courses that are taught entirely in the language, tested entirely in the language. You're writing essays in the language. And for the end of that class, I wrote what was at that time the longest paper I had written in any language, which was 41 pages, in Chi, about proverbs in Chi and various contexts in which they're used. So I did that. Oh, and I left this out. So before I came for that year of study abroad, I took Medunecha, that's hieroglyphics, what they call hieroglyphics, a hieroglyphic writing system. And, by the time I came back, I was making all these connections between Chi and Medunecha. So my teacher was like, all right, you got to go to grad school for this. He was like, you don't have an option. I was like, I don't really want to go to grad school. He's like, it's not your option, you go. So I ended up going to University of Wisconsin-Madison to do African languages and literature. I was there. I did one master's in just that, African language and literature, and another master's in linguistics. And from there, I taught in Chicago at a few different schools, Northeastern Illinois University. They have the Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies, where they teach Medunecha, where they, have the Kemetic Institute, teaching about Africa, all these different programs. I was also doing survival training myself, and then I became an instructor for survival training. I was also studying capoeira, and I also became an instructor for capoeira during my time there. And then, I decided to do the PhD, so I came here. I was familiar with University of Ghana because of, having come here, having done my study abroad. So it was really a good fit. I just came in, had my committee put together, and just went from there. So I repatriated in 2008. And I come back to Ghana, and also in between I had gone to other countries. I went to Nigeria for advanced Yoruba studies, went to Senegal, Gambia, that's Wolof. While I was doing a year of study abroad, I traveled to Burkina Faso and Mali. Of course, since then I've been to various other countries as well. But yeah, that was, the main thing just in terms of coming here, doing a PhD. So I came in 2008 to repatriate. In 2009 is when I started the program, and I finished the PhD in 2012. And for that year, 2012-2013, I was awarded the Vice Chancellor's Best PhD Thesis in the university. So that's this one here. You can probably take a picture of that. And so that was cool. I think I'm the first African out of the diaspora to receive the award of the best PhD thesis at the University of Ghana. And I don't know if there are other Africans from the diaspora who've done that in other countries perhaps. And then from there, so I finished officially in 2012. That's when I deposited my thesis. The graduation was 2013. And then right after that, the beginning of 2014 is when I started teaching at African Studies. And my supervisor, he was like, I want you to be in African Studies because in linguistics, like I could have gone straight to linguistics and stayed in linguistics. Because like in linguistics, basically what people focus on is Ghanaian languages. He had seen my CV and all my other stuff. He saw that I had studied Medu Necha. I did so-called African American studies for my first degree. That I had done a lot about Africa. So he said he wanted me to come here to African Studies and basically add to, how would I put it, add to the linguistics offering. So the linguistics department itself started as people who were here at African Studies. They branched off to found the linguistics department, but he was like, we need to revamp, some of those courses and some of that content that was originally here, especially as far as linguistics goes. So, I've been here since. Just this year I got this award for the best publication in the humanities for early career. So, in the little time I've been here, I've been trying to do, various things. So
nice. So, what ultimately made you want to leave America? Or was it a combination of things, or?
I could say it's a combination of things, but I'll tell you when I made the decision that within 1 year I'm out of the U.S. When I was doing the survival training, we would do also firearms and weapons training. And this is Chicago, and Chicago was very anti-gun at that point in time, even though the Supreme Court knocked down the law that they were using at that time. But anyway, one time I was driving, coming from one of the survival training encampments, and I had a firearm in the trunk. The police pulled me over for a taillight, and then they said, let's go on a fishing trip. So then they went into the trunk, and they decided to lie and say that the firearm was under my seat and loaded, so that could be a felony. So anyway, that drained lots of funds, lots of resources. I was able to have an excellent lawyer. We got a witness. Eventually it was thrown out. The judge said that the police testimony wasn't even credible whatsoever, which was somewhat amazing because for cases that come out of Chicago, they send them out to a place called Bridgeview, which has a 99 point whatever % conviction rate of black males, especially. So for me to go through and not, have that was really phenomenal. But I remember when I was sitting on the witness stand, a thought came to me that as long as I'm in the jurisdiction of any of these Eurasians, just on a whim, they could say, all right, you're under arrest. Let's plant something on you. All right, let's say you were doing this, let's say you're doing that. And even when you get off, you've spent $10,000. Even when you get off, you've invested so much time into this and all this other stuff. So, as I was sitting there, I was like, never again am I going to allow myself to be under the jurisdiction of them, because basically I'm putting my life into this old, gray-haired white man's hands to be like, for the next 10 years, you're not going to see your children just because I feel like it. So as I was sitting on the witness stand, I said, within 1 year, I'll repatriate it. And I was already pretty active, but I ended up working about 18 jobs in order to get up the funds. My goal was $40,000 to put that together within 1 year. I actually got to 30 something, but then I was just in the summer before I came, I actually repatriated September 6th. 2008, and one thing I was like, not another winter. And then in the summer, I was like, as long as I stay here, I'm gonna keep eating into what I've saved. So it'll be like a dangling carrot. I'll never get exactly what I need, because as soon as I get close and I need to spend it, then I get close and I was like, I said a year, I'm out. So that was that. And that's what I would say was a major event. That was the culmination of various other things. In terms of survival training, already, well, I'll leave that to the side. But yeah, that was probably the major event. And yeah, and I haven't been back since. I don't have any plans on ever going back.
Thanks for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, with like all this, with like a lot of like police brutality in the media right now, and you know, like it's pretty much in your face, like worldwide. Like, what do you think is like the best thing for, like, I don't even want to say African Americans or Black Americans, but Black people, African people who live in the United States? What do you think like the best thing for them to do is?
Okay. Well, my sister has a movement called Let's Buy Black 365. Let's Buy Black 365. And basically the solution that she and others who are with her are looking at is, you know, it's one thing to say, all right, we don't like you shooting us. It's another thing to say, let's do something. And say, you know, every single time we're buying something with Eurasians, they're flipping that money to build a prison. They're flipping that money to buy bullets. They're flipping that money to, you know, do all the things that we're saying. So actually, as African people who are there, we are financing our oppression. I hope you're following along. And that's in whether we're just buying water, buying food, flushing the toilet, every single thing that we do is enriching them. That's before we even talk about the fact that we're actually working for them on a day-to-day basis. You understand? So you're keeping the finances going, and they wouldn't. It's like, let's say this brother is shot 41 times. You bought the bullets. Where did they get the money from other than you supporting them? So basically, it's an idea of divestment, and I definitely think that for Africans who are there, it would be in their best interest to support their enemies as little as possible, while supporting ourselves as much as possible. As far as African Americans or African anti-Americans, just to have that identity means that you're confused, that you're not sure if you want to be a race traitor or what. But for African anti-Americans, those would be people who are very clear. Black anti-Americans is like, all right, we know what we're for, we know what we're against. And to a degree, even so, let's say once you repatriate, you are taking the food, you are taking the money out of the mouth of this enemy, you know, in various ways, shapes, and forms. And I remember in the early 80s, you had this divestment movement, you know, against South Africa. They were doing the apartheid. So you had all these companies that were divesting and pressure from African people and others to force these companies to divest all the money. So it's like, all right, we're taking $2 billion out of South Africa's economy. That's painful to them because they were like, oh, we already tried to spend that. We thought we had that, but nope. So that's gone. This one, another $1 billion. Boom. This one, another $3 billion. Eventually, that, you know, added up. So I think even as we repatriate, it's sort of like divestment on a even stronger scale, because all the however much I would earn there, $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, I've taken all of that away from them. So it's like I just robbed a bank. It's like, here's the IMF, here's the World Bank, and let me get 60,000 out of that. So now the money that would have been going into that system as the lifeblood, you're starving, you know, your enemy. So I think that's, you know, at least one thing that could be done right now. So, you know, we could say, all right, let's rise up, let's do whatever, and that's cool, and I'm all for that. That's even, you know, that whole survival training mentality that goes along with that. But short of that, you know, if you're there, you can see, all right, how can we buy black? If you can not be there and remove yourself from that whole situation, then again, as opposed to feeding your enemy, you're feeding yourself, and you're building up Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I got this question before I left. I would tell people about the project I was doing, and it was some black people who would be like, "What? There's you know, black Americans moving to Ghana, like somebody said like the word coward, like that's cowardly."
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you feel about that? Like a person being like, you're a coward since you moved away, like you could be using that energy to fight what's here, type of thing. And I heard that, I was like,
This is the thing, they're not fighting. They're fighting for their enemies. They're supporting their enemies. You understand? So at the one hand, they're raising placards and saying, yeah, let's fight. Then they're going to the Pizza Hut. Then they're going to McDonald's. Then they're going to Walmart. Then they're on Facebook. So what you're doing when you're there, you think that you're fighting against the enemy, but you are the only reason that your enemy is able to stand. You are the one who built the prison. You are the one who bought the gun. You are the one who bought the bullets. You understand? So it's something that people do to make themselves feel good, like, oh yeah, I'm fighting against it. But every single, I'll give you an example. There was a brother who came here to learn some drumming, and he went back. And he was working on these thermal solar batteries, this cutting edge technology, and that's what he's doing. Now, rhetorically, he's saying, yeah, I'm against what these whites are doing to us, blah, blah, blah. Oh, but you're working for them. You understand? You're at their university, you're in a lab, and any technology you develop is theirs. You understand? You got black people working for NASA. You got black people, of course, in the Army, in the Navy, in the Marines. They wouldn't be able to bomb Libya without black people. You understand? They wouldn't be able to starve, South Sudan. They wouldn't be able to do embargoes on Cuba. The U.S. is an evil entity, and it destroys African people throughout the world. And the reason why it's able to do that is because of black people who are supporting them just by living there. You understand? So this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of divesting. We have to stop fooling ourselves and be like, yeah, I'm fighting against this. You're not fighting against anybody. You are the one who's propping it up. You understand? Your dollars, every single thing you do, whether you get sick, you go to the hospital. Who gets the money from that? You're hungry, you go to the grocery store. Who gets the money from that? You need to go somewhere, you put gas in the car. Who gets the money from that? You understand? So they talk about how black people in the U.S. have these billions and billions of dollars of spending power. All of that is the lifeblood that the U.S. and other, corporations such as the IMF and World Bank and all these, that's what they use in order to rape the rest of the world. So as soon as you, black person who's in the U.S., stop assisting them, you're a culprit. So it's like when the 9/11 towers fell, the black people who are in there, the non-black people who are in there, all of them burned up. You understand? And it's like, when it comes time to pay for all the things that the U.S. is doing throughout the world, they're not going to be like, oh, you were fighting against them. No, you were there working at the World Trade Center, helping the U.S. rape the rest of the planet. You understand? And nobody wants to hear that, oh, I was thinking good thoughts. Oh, my heart was with the Africans. No, you may say your heart was with the Africans, but what you were doing with your hands, what you were doing with your legs, what you were doing with your mouth, what you were doing with all other parts of you, that was fighting against African people. So, this is a thing. We have to stop being walking contradictions. We have to stop being hypocrites. You can't be against it, but then every single action that you do is for it, just in you living there.
okay, for sure. All right, I wanted to ask you about family here. Like, for instance, like where you met your wife, if you met her here or back in the U.S., and like how you're raising your family out here, and how do you think it would be compared to raising your family in the U.S.?
I met with my wife at an African language program when I was, this must have been 2002. I just graduated from Morehouse, and I was about to start at University of Wisconsin-Madison at the African Languages and Literature program. So I was learning Yoruba, and she was learning Wolof. So like, wow, the sister's learning Wolof, she must be on the path. So she was actually doing that as a summer program, because the following year she was coming to that same program. So we met, basically both doing that African language type of work. When I repatriated, we all came, right? And then she went back after about a month, and then came back about a year after that. So, we've all been here ever since. In terms of raising children, raising a family, To some degree, it will be similar, and to some degree, it will be different. The similarity is that regardless of where I would be homeschooling my children. So that's what the main thing that we do. We have our own homeschool collective. It's called Abibi Fanhodia de Tuyambia, which is African Liberation School. And yeah, so that would be similar. The thing that's dissimilar is that I remember I was at Abri Botanical Gardens, and I was there just holding my son in my arms, and I was just thinking that, I don't have to worry about him getting shot. He has a toy gun, and you know about Tamir Rice, and there was another case even more recent. Well, I think his name is Tyre King, who was also, shot. They said he had a BB gun. They shot him in his back as he was running away. Everybody who was a witness said it didn't go down like the police said. But again, just on a whim. And this is the thing, the strategy of black people in the U.S. is like, let's just hope that they run out of bullets. You understand? Eventually they'll run out of ammo. They won't be, they shot Amadou Diallo 41 times. They're going to run out of ammo one day or another. And it's basically like fish in a barrel. You understand? Other than folks like Gavin Long, other than folks like, what was it about Micah Johnson, and then back in the day you could look at Mark Essex, you can look at the zebra killings, that's out your side. I want to say that was in Oakland. It was definitely in California. Colin Ferguson. So you have those Africans who have actually taken it to them, usually, getting shot or killed there on the spot. But yeah, that was a difference, that I was just holding him, and it dawned on me that he has a toy gun, and I don't have to worry about him getting shot. I'm driving around, and I'll see the police, and my heart doesn't jump. You understand? That I realize that, if I'm there, just on a whim, you saw it with Philando Castile, I could sit here and name the names of 50 Africans who have been shot, all the way to Oscar Grant, Sean Bell, so forth and so on. So yeah, it's a level of peace of mind that I think is something that you couldn't pay for. You know what I'm saying? I'll go into a grocery store and nobody's following behind me because I'm black, because everybody's black. And there was a brother who I also went to undergrad with, and he said something that I thought was somewhat profound, but it was just his reflection. He was like, being here, this must be what it feels like for white people in America. You understand? Like, you just being. It ain't arresting you, ain't nobody doing. I just saw an article about, I think it was in New York, stop and frisk. The police officer took the young brother, turned him upside down, and then started shaking the brother. So you get these stories like every single day, but when you're here, everybody's black. You understand? So there are certain things that you don't even realize or appreciate until you look at the comparison between your quality of life and happiness here versus the lack thereof there. So monetarily, you may get more. My father calls it money laundering. When they say money laundering, it means, all right, your cartel, you push the money through me and then I funnel it over there. He's like, that's all black people do. We do money laundering. We go to a job, we take it, then we give it to Mercedes-Benz. And we take it, we give it to, whoever, the random shop. We give it to whoever that doesn't look like us. All the statistics are there about how it doesn't bounce in our community. Other communities bounces 12 times, whatever. And this is, essentially what we're doing. But, yeah, I think the main thing is that beyond the statistics of GDP and gross national product and all this other stuff, is the quality of life that you have when you are in an African country, as opposed to when you are financing your oppressor in that country.
It's crazy, like exactly like how you were saying, like I feel super comfortable out here. Like, I mean, I'm not dark skinned, but like everybody, it's like it's all love, black love. But I think Dang, I just for oh yeah. So this is gonna be like my last question for you, and then I'm gonna add. Never mind. Then it's gonna just be you speaking. But how do
Drink some water?
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Um, how do? Oh no, I actually want to ask you two questions. My bad. So, one is how do the mhm
And I was actually there learning capoeira.
mhm
So I was doing advanced stages of capoeira. And again, you know, that was an interaction when people know, all right, you down with this is your thing, this is what you do. Then again, you're talking about a high level of interaction. So I was training capoeira regional at Academia de Mestre Bimba, that's still in Pelourinho, at Associação, that's still in Pelourinho. Then we would do the rodas, that's where you do the sparring. That's at Forte de Barbalho, that's where João Pequeno, who's now passed on, going to Mercado Modelo. I think when we first got there, we went to the Steve Biko Center. We, you know, was able to hang out with the folks. They were having lectures, and I was like, wow, this is what's going on. And I remember being there, and I'm just standing in the streets. All of a sudden, here's a procession to the Orishas. And I'm like, wow, this is more African than any place I've been in Africa. Because here, you know, you'll be walking down the street, people doing, they got a picture of a ugly white Caesar Borgia pretending to be Jesus. Yeah, looking like a dead chicken or something. I don't know what that is. You know, and you're supposed to be in Africa, but everybody wearing their suit and ties and got their perms. And so I'm sitting there in Brazil, and I'm like, wow, it's a whole different vibe. Brazil is more African, at least Bahia, not so in Rio. Not so in Sao Paulo, but in Bahia, Salvador da Bahia, you like, this is more African than any place I've been in Africa. Except maybe when I went to Mali to a Dogon festival, but even there you had this, that was very disappointing. I'll tell you why. It was, I'll just explain what I mean. So we did a road trip, myself and two other brothers who I went to undergrad with, did a road trip up to Ouagadougou, that's in Burkina, capital. Then we went west to Bobo Dioulasso, and that's, you know, the second city. We went to Bamfara Falls, then we went up to Sevare, to Mopti, then went to Bandiagara, so now we're getting towards Dogon land. And we met a brother there, he was like, oh yeah, I'm Dogon, yeah, I'll take you there, we have a festival going, let's roll. So we're like, wow, that's great, let's do it. I had read conversations with Ogo Tameli and some of the Pale Fox. I hadn't read all of that at that time. And so we went there, we were driving for like, I don't know, like hours. And there's no road. It's like you're driving on like just dust. And there's of course no air conditioning in the car, so all the dust is getting into the car. So I'm wearing mud cloth. By the time we got out, we looked like a cartoon, like this red, all this red dust all over us. We got to shake that out and, you know, whatever. And we're looking around like, yeah, we're not there yet. Now we got to hike. So we got our bags, put our bags on our heads, we're going up a cliff. Hiking up there. It's not a cliff, but a steep slope. Then you get to like the plateau, and now you're walking and you're seeing this, you know, field as far as I can see. And everything they do agriculture. Now I read about how they do everything in 8, so you can see these 8 plots all over, and it's like perfect. You know, they do it like it's geometry. It's not just a field, we're doing geometry here. So it's beautiful, and we're walking for like another good, you know, maybe 45 minutes, hour or so. And then we come down, it's like, no, you're not there yet. So then you go down, now you're walking here in the valley side, you keep going, and now eventually, all right, now let's say that's another 30 minutes, now you come up another slope. So you get up there and then say, okay, now, you know, we're almost there. So you get there, and as we got to the village, you know, a little bit heavy set brother came up, and you know, I was like, yeah, we're meeting the Dogon people, yeah, this is on. They know about Sirius, they know about all this stuff, they're deep. So the brother comes up, he shakes on, he said, yes, hello, my name is George. Would you like some Coca-Cola? I was like, what? He's like, oh. So we got as far away from all this Eurasian stuff. He's like, would you like some Coca-Cola? And he's like, would you like to set up your tent in front of the church? There are already some white folks who set up their tents in front of the church, so you may want to join them. We just like, man, shoot. And the sobering reflection is that we're coming to the situation thinking or acting or hoping that there are places that haven't been, touched by this white Eurasian whatever. And it's like we went deep, we went far. And they like, yo, we got a mud church here. There's some white folks getting ready for the festival too. You want to hang out with them? Like, no, we good. We don't want to hang out with them. But,
I try, like, when I do interviews, I try to just, listen. Now my head, but this shit's hella funny.
So, we went to the festival, and you see most of the African people there. They on the cliffs, and they're doing all the stuff, and it's just elaborate. It was more than I could imagine. Just, you have this troop from this village. They come, they do the dances. They got, the bright reds and the greens and the blues, and they got the mask. They got a mask that's like 20 feet long, and when the guy goes down, he starts doing this. So the crowd, they got to stand out to the side because he starts doing this one, right, all around and all this stuff, and it's just phenomenal, spectacular. You got the stilt walkers, you got everything, and it's all sounds, and you got the elder women, you got the hunters. The women are there, they're doing the dance. It looks just like, I just saw somebody do a dance that's similar right here in Ghana. They're doing their thing, and it was elders too, elders. And I was like, we one people, you see the same thing. This one didn't ask that one how to do it. That one ain't asked this one how to do it. They're 1,000 miles away, but they're doing it. And then, we kept moving. We get to the next village, there's some young folks there. They're like, yo, we're gonna, sit around the fire at night. And the one thing, when you're in Dogon land, from Bandiagara on, like the way they have the roofs that are flat, so they have these ladders that are against the side of the house. You climb the ladders, and people just sleep up on the roof. And the way you can see the stars, it's phenomenal, man. I've never seen anything like that before, never seen anything like that since, where it's more like the stars are around you than above you. Like, you feel like you could do this and like grab some stars from right there. So yeah, we're there in the Dogon village. We're like, yo, we're gonna light this fire, cool. So we're lighting the fire, and then somebody breaks out a blunt. They start rapping. We're like, yes. I'm like, yo, these are Dogon. They're like, yo, let's have a cipher, man. Yeah. They're trying to imitate black folks from over there, or at least what they've heard or seen or whatever. And it's just like, yo, I guess this isn't what I was exactly what I was expecting. Yeah, so it was interesting, but just all that was to draw that link, and to be like, the reception. It's less of a reception; it's an interaction. And the level of the interaction will be, one, depending on what your own thing you're bringing. Because you got folks over here, oh, why y'all do this? Oh, why y'all do that? That type of deal. And then you got other folks who are chill. They can, just interact, move with folks. So, it's the same way for continental Africans who go there. You get, you come with a certain type of interaction, you're going to get a certain type of interaction. You come with another type of interaction, you'll get another type of interaction. So it's just one of the things that you have as well is that, especially like when you're speaking the language with other people and people just chill and everybody's, that you realize black people, we all got the same sense of humor. We laugh at the same stuff, we make fun of the same stuff. So you just be, and you just rolling. And like some of my colleagues, they always like I said something, I have to go get my visa renewed or whatever. They're like, oh wow, we forgot that you had to deal with that stuff. They're just like, you're just like one of us. We don't really. So people say that, they're like, basically, that's just the vibe. You just roll. It's like, matter of fact, when I first came here, they thought I was Ghanaian and they charged me 400 Ghana cedis. This for the PhD program. Yeah, you pay the Ghana price, 400 Ghana cedis. Then they saw my passport. I'm like, oh, $4,000 US. So, matter of fact, that's a document I had to send out. We're working on something to try to alleviate some of those types of challenges for Africans who are coming here and make it more policy, as opposed to just the talk. Yeah, marketing and promotions.
Nice, bro. That story about the dough guys is so funny, dude. Yeah. That's tight though. That's fresh. Really, I had one more question. Like, my bad on time. I know we spent like an hour doing this, but it's been wonderful to listen to you, for real. That could be I don't know. It could be anything, like socially, economically, like travel wise. You've been here since '08. That's almost like 18 years. So
almost 8 years.
8 years. Oh, I'm tripping. I'm thinking 98. Okay. So yeah, 8 years. So I mean, like what challenges have you had to face, or your family?
Challenges. Let me think. Okay, let me give you just some of the everyday type of stuff. So it's less now, but maybe about a year or so ago they had the doom saw problem. So this is where the lights would be going off and on. It'll be on for 12 hours, it'll be off for 12 hours. And I actually ended up having to get a generator because I had just gone to the market. As soon as we get home, lights are off. So all the food spoiled. So like the day after, I was like getting a generator. And one of the things is, so I mentioned earlier survival training. And one of the things is, if you're in the States, you can have an idea like, yeah, we got to do for self. Come on, we got to depend on ourselves. We got to whatever. But here, like that's just every day. It's not like, oh, I'm going camping. It's like, no, every day. Even when you're driving on the road, you're driving off road. So you just got to have a mentality of, I got to do my own thing. So I got to get my solar. I got to, have my food. I got to have, and like when I was here, we're supposed to be talking about challenges. This isn't a challenge. When I was here, I was doing a PhD. I had a friend of the family who was like, oh, I have a house out in Frafrahas, a couple towns over. He was like, you can just stay there rent free for 2 years. I'm house sitting. So that was cool. He had a huge garden, so I'm going out, I'm plucking mangoes in the morning. This is my breakfast. I'm going out. It's pineapples there. We got everything. That's not a challenge. But when he did come back, then I had to get my own place. And so yeah, you just have to deal with whatever the things are. The power supply may not be there all the time, so you just get your solar, switch over, boom. So whatever the challenges are. I had a car that I actually got a very good deal for it. It was a Ghana-made car. The outside was a Grand Cherokee, the inside was a Nissan, and all the other stuff. So they switched the engine, they converted it to diesel, transmission, all these other things. So, and that one was good for about 2 or 3 years. I took it to a mechanic, they call it fitter. They fit things, and maybe it don't fit, but they may try to fit it. They call them fitters. So I went there. They jacked up the car. It was actually a colleague who recommended this person, and the person on the electricals destroyed every single electrical circuit in the entire car. He was like, I'm gonna make things work with this small control board. It needs a control board like this. He was like, let me get one from a taxi and just force everything to work here. So I'm gonna, jerry rig this. I'm gonna jack this up. I'm gonna try to get it to work with it. Jacked up the whole thing. So I spent the next year after that, having to get the parts in order to replace all the ones that were working that he destroyed. So, just, I would say part of what that comes from is the high cost of low standards. So you have generally people don't have very much knowledge of Africa or African history or anything before Europeans came, so they think they were in jungles. They ain't do nothing until Europeans came. We didn't have a history thing. I've had people actually say this to me, right? And again, this is what we're talking about, lower level of consciousness. You have people say, oh, the black man can never do anything good. Only the white man does good things. And it's like, that means you know zero. You don't know anything about anything. I'm surprised you even know you need to breathe air and drink water. You may just die at any point in time. You may forget. But yeah, so you'll literally have people saying that type of thing to you. Now, when you have people who don't know anything that they did in the past, they have very low aspirations of what they can do in the present or in the future. So, people will do some jacked up stuff or jacked up work. It's like, it's just Ghana. You understand? So it's like, here are the steps. You may see this walking up steps here. This step will be like this. The next step will be like that. Then the next step will be like this. You'll trip up the steps. You're like, oh man, what was that? It's like you're not used to people just saying, this is Ghana. Let's just do it willy-nilly. We don't measure nothing. It's like, imagine if those people knew that we invented measurement. What if they had not even knew that? What if they had the examples and could read the examples and say, you know what? There's a precedent. It's like law, legal. You have legal precedents. It's like the way it was done before. That lets us know how we can do it now and how we can build on top of that. But people have. It's like Ike Alma was just here a couple of days ago, an author, and he was saying, imagine a computer that doesn't have a memory. You type it and it's gone. As soon as you type it, it's gone. As soon as you shut it down, you open it up and it's an empty system. There's nothing on it. And he was making an analogy saying that's how we are as African people, because we start our history from on this date. That's when the first European came. And it's like, you're like a person with amnesia. You're here, but imagine you're sitting here and you don't know where your house is. As soon as you walk out in the building, you just like looking around, you're wandering, right? Where are you going to change your clothes at? Where are you going to bathe at? So basically we're walking around like people wearing the same clothes or not bathing. They don't know where to go because you don't know where you came from. You don't know what you just did just like last week. And 400 years, that's like saying last week. How long a period of time is that? You understand? Compared to the whole course of human history. You understand? So this is, the majority, and I gave you those as an example, or a few examples, that most of the challenges that you'll have will come from people not knowing how to act because they didn't know anything that they did before. They don't know that they have any standards of how they should behave, beyond that. And that's, again, speaking generally. You have some people who have some type of level of, oh, well, in my ethnic group, this is how we do it, or in my church, this is how we do it. So they're trying to, it's basically like take whatever scraps they have and try to operate with that. But again, it's different from, I understand who I am, I understand whose I am, I understand where I came from, I understand where I'm going. That's what you find lacking. And everything else that you see is basically a symptom of the deeper disease. And so what you'll see, and it's like in the States, it's Malcolm X was talking about this back in the 60s, talking about who taught you to hate the color of your skin, who taught you to hate, the shape of your nose and your lips, who taught you to hate, the texture of your hair, top of your head all the way down to your feet. And we're clear that that's the pale white Eurasians who convinced us of that, because once we start to believe that, now you go back and enrich them, right? Oh, I don't like my skin color. Oh, we got some chemicals for that. Oh, I don't like having human hair. I want mine to look like a dog or a horse or a white woman. All right, we got some chemicals for that. All right, oh, I don't like African clothes. All right, we got some clothes for that. It's like all you're doing is just what we're talking about. You're enriching your enemy through the created tastes and desires that they inputted into you intentionally. And the oldest book in the history of humanity, in Stretch Hotep, there's a line that says, one who listens to his belly belongs to the enemy. One who listens to his belly belongs to the enemy. That means if you're dependent on me to feed you, you understand? That means that whatever I tell you to do, you want to do it. I spit on the floor, lick it up. Aren't you still listening to your belly? You better. If you want to eat, you better. So this is basically what we're talking about. There's a situation that, we're still in various ways. So the other things that you see, as I was mentioning, are just different manifestations of the same self-hatred. So you'll see a billboard for skin bleaching, you'll see a billboard for perming, you'll see a billboard with a big white Jesus on it, you'll see a billboard, and whatever you see, it's just a different manifestation of the same disease. It may look different in this context, your interaction with this person may go sour in this context, but all of those things are really just one thing. It just looks different.
For sure. Man, you're excellent. All right, this is the last part.
Ndox du fàtte yoonam. That's a Wolof proverb that translates to water does not forget its path. So if you ever see water, even if the stream, the riverbed dries up, as soon as the rain hits, all of it will go down and it will continue on that path. This is essentially what we're talking about in terms of African people. There's a poem by Jimmy Sholanke, and it's in Yoruba, and I'll tell you the Yoruba and then I'll give you the translation. It says, Onala, Ojagbaragada, Ayilujara, Onatila Arin Odo, Rekoja, Eru Obodo, Odo ti Shon, Ekun Omi Shon Titi, Ojasi Arin Ono. Odo Lon Legbon, Ona Lon Legbon, Ati Rin, Ako Rin ni sọ fún wa bóyá Odo Legbon, tàbí ọ̀nà ni o. Odo láyé Eru Obodo. Ọjọ́ ti pẹ́ tí Olódùmarè, ọba adẹ́dà tó dá òkè, tó dá ọ̀dọ̀, tó dá ọ̀nà sílé ayé, ọ̀dọ̀ láyé, omi lẹ́nìyàn. Ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣe rere yóò Eru Obodo. And what the poem is saying is that we are like the river. The river comes from ancient times. Let's say on Allah, we have a road that cut into the river, but eventually the river, came out and flooded on top of the road. So it's a question of anteriority, which one came first, which one is the elder, which one is superior. So even though as African people we had this road which ran through us, right? That's, what we talk about, colonization, enslavement, all these things, that eventually the river bursts out onto the road, and when the flood comes, guess what? That road is impassable. And that's basically what the poem is saying, that the one who comes from Olodumare, the one who comes from the Supreme Being, is different from the one that's man-made. That's different from the one that's a mutation. That's different from the 4%ers. When I say 4%ers, I'm talking about those 4% Neanderthals who are running the world right now. So, this is what we're talking about, that eventually justice will prevail. Eventually Ma'at, right? Ma'at, that is truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, order, reciprocity, that eventually those principles will prevail and the river will burst out onto the road and balance will be restored in the world. So this is what we're dealing with. In the meantime, I would exhort everyone to stop financing your oppressor to whatever degree you can. At least try to minimize it. Try to, I actually want to do a presentation, and I'm going to call it How to Rob a Bank, right? And it's going to be how to divest from America, how to divest from the UK, how to repatriate, because as soon as you do, all that money you are feeding your enemy, all that money you are feeding your oppressor, you say, yeah, I'm fighting against them, I'm signing petitions, I'm marching, but every single thing you do in every single aspect of your life is supporting your enemy. So the way to rob a bank is to say, I'm not putting my money in these Eurasian banks anymore. Is to say, I'm not putting my money into Walmart anymore. I'm not going to the grocery store anymore. Now, if you want to do that, the best way to do that is to repatriate, come to Africa and start building up Africa. There was a quote from Malcolm X. He says, until Africa is a world power, no African anywhere in the world will be respected. I just gave a talk called Black equals African Lives Matter. Black equals African Lives Matter. And basically I was going through how what you find going on in the US isn't new, right? You had, before social media, people act like this is a new thing, social media, blah, blah, blah. Before that, you had Emmett Till and Jet Magazine. And then African people saying, Robert F. Williams said, Negroes with guns, go get your guns, protect your children, protect your family. Now, so we're talking about the 50s and 60s here. So that, we were saying Black Lives Matter, you better defend your Black lives. Before that, you had Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. This is 1897, where he was like, yo, you better get your guns. He's a bishop. He's like, yo, whether it's on the Sabbath or any other day of the week, y'all better, get your guns, get your 16-shooter, get your 7-shooter, and when they come trying to lynch you, blow them into 1,000 giblets, right? This is his words. Now, even before that, you had around 1892, 1893, you had Ida B. Wells. Here you had the lynchings that were going on every single day. Now, when you had this going on, she was like, the Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every single black home. So, you know, we act like it's a new thing, but even before that, you have David Walker's Appeal, 1829, 1830, where it's like, it's no more wrong to kill the one who is oppressing you than it is to take a drink of water, right? So this goes back, and even before that, you know, you had the Haitian Rebellion, you had the Samuel Sharp Rebellion, all of these things that ended enslavement. Europeans didn't end enslavement, they didn't stop enslavement. African people saying we whooping that behind is what ended enslavement. So these are the things that we saw, these are the things that we did. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, when we talk about African Lives Matter, you can see African people who are getting killed in the US, and that's not a new thing, as I just said. You know, you had Africans, there was this Yuri Jallo in Germany who was burned alive. So he was in a jail cell. He had handcuffs on. They put the shackles on him. They strapped him to a fireproof mattress. But then guess what they did? They put fire accelerant on him and burned him alive in the jail cell. You know, this isn't just a U.S. type of thing. In India, you had an African who was bludgeoned to death, you understand, in broad daylight, an African out of Congo. So he's just there. He's trying to be a student. He's trying to do his thing. Boom, 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 they bludgeon him, kill him, you know, in India. You have West Papua New Guinea. You have the Africans who are there, and they see themselves as Africans. Chief Benny Wenda, who comes from there, he came to African studies and said, yo, we're all brothers. We need the support of continental Africans. We need support of Ghana. You know, we need your aid. We need your help, because there's a genocide going on in West Papua New Guinea. You have the same thing in Bougainville, Mekamui. Look up the documentary, The Coconut Revolution. You had, you know, we know about Amadou Diallo. We know about Oscar Grant, who we mentioned before. In Florida, there was a brother, Kofi Adu-Brimpong, who was doing his PhD. The police kicked in the door to his apartment and shot him in the face. You understand? So he survived it miraculously, but he was on treatment even years after that. And he's there, respectable, doing his PhD. So you have all these cases, and what do these cases tell us? It tells us that what Malcolm X said is correct, that until Africa is a world power, no African any place in the world will be respected. The police will keep shooting you, no matter how much you process and how many petitions you sign, because guess what? Africa's not a world power. Now, they don't do that to the Chinese because Chinese have nuclear weapons. They don't do that to India because India got nuclear weapons. They don't do that to Pakistan because Pakistan got nuclear weapons. This is what determines who is respected. If the place you come from is a world power, hands off. You understand? You don't just smack around some so-called Jew in the U.S. because guess what? When you see that single Jew, you see the state of Israel behind them. But when they see a African, they see somebody black walking in the street, they say, this is just a brother with a hoodie. He don't got nothing behind him. So we shoot him. Ghana ain't gonna say nothing. You understand? Even in India, there were, you know, Ghanaians, there were other continental Africans who were getting mobbed, assaulted, attacked, all types of violence. We didn't hear anything from Ghana or any other country, you know, coming out there, right? But meanwhile, we have a statue of Gandhi on campus. Somebody, they said, stole the spectacles. You got 24/7 protection on the statue, an inanimate object. What is this telling us? This tells us that the world is backwards and upside down. So until Africa is a world power, don't expect any respect. Until Africa is a world power, don't expect to stop getting shot in the street, whether it's in London, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in China. This is the thing. So your job is to come to Africa. Your job is to do whatever you need to do to make Africa a world power. Then when you do that groundwork, now any place you go, boom, that's where you get the respect. Any place you go, that's where you're not going to be getting shot down dead in the street or hoping that the police eventually run out of bullets. So this is my message to you. Repatriate, or if you can't repatriate, divest to the best of your ability. The best way to divest is by repatriating. But short of that, stop saying you fighting these Eurasians and you on Facebook. Stop saying you fighting these Eurasians and you on WhatsApp. Stop saying you fighting these Eurasians and you're on Twitter. You're on every single thing that they put out there. All you're doing is financing your enemy. All you're doing is financing your oppressor. Stop lying to yourself. Stop being a hypocrite. stop, going against everything that you say that you're trying to do, and start building up Africa, that's where you're going to see a change in the world. All right.